Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about indestructible survival gear. This is stuff that just under normal use could possibly outlive you, or is something that is much tougher than other things that perform a similar function. And the first piece of gear that we're going to talk about is the Kelly Kettle. It's a very good way to boil water and cook just using natural materials, things like sticks and pine cones or any other kind of biomass that you could just find out in the woods. If you get it just by itself, then it'll come with the fire base and then the actual kettle. And you can also get it with a full cook set. That'll come with things like a hobo stove that you can use to cook other things. Like if you have a skillet, you can use that to cook on top of that hobo stove. And then it also comes with other things like plates, a grill grate, and some cups. Another nearly indestructible piece of survival gear is the Nalgene Oasis. This is basically an upgraded version of the military-style canteens that would be used in like those Alice pouches for like web gear. And it has a lot of advantages over the original, and that involves the material that it's made out of. I think it's pronounced as Tritan. It's the same material that Nalgene uses in their other water bottles, but it doesn't leave like taste and smell in the water, and it's also incredibly durable even though it's much thinner. And if you're looking for a really tough hatchet, then the Estwing Sportsman's Axe is a very good option. It's just made out of one solid piece of metal that has stacked leather discs as the handle, so you're not going to have issues with that handle breaking because, I mean, it's just solid steel. And it's going to be a very good choice for just a utility hatchet to keep in your truck, maybe your bug out bag, or to take camping. Military entrenching tools are another really solid piece of survival gear, but when selecting those, I would tend to steer more towards genuine military issue tools like those made by Ames. Also, I think Glock makes a good entrenching tool, and probably some other companies. But my instinct is to avoid the more modular ones that have all of these different like gimmicky tools and features on them, just because I think when you add that many moving parts to them, there's more of a chance for something to go wrong. I think something simpler is a little bit better. I know I have one that, I mean, it's probably older than me and it still works perfectly fine. But having an entrenching tool somewhere like your car could allow you to maybe dig out a rut if your tire gets stuck. Also, you can use it for shelter building and other survival tasks. One of my favorite survival and everyday use items is cast iron cookware. And that stuff, it lasts pretty much forever. Even if you go to a flea market and you find old, rusty, nasty looking cast iron, there's a very good chance that with some time, love, and a little bit of steel wool, that you can get it up and going again. I have cast iron that's been in my family for decades and it's still working perfectly fine. But one really good thing about cast iron is that you can use it pretty much anywhere. You could use it on an electric stove top, in your oven itself, and then also on other things like camp stoves or even over open flames, like if you have a rocket stove or a campfire. Another nearly indestructible piece of survival gear is the military water can. And these are made by a couple different companies. I think Scepter makes them and also another company called LCI. These are the water containers that you see bouncing around on the back of Humvees when you watch like military footage on the news. And they are incredibly tough. The plastic that they're made out of is very, very thick compared to other water containers. Like I have those, I have some water bricks, and I have some aquatainers. And compared to the other two, those military water cans, they are just incredibly beefy. I mean, you would almost have to have them right next to each other to really understand the difference in build quality. So I think if you're wanting something to keep in the back of your vehicle, that they're going to be a very, very good choice for that. I know that when I get a camper shell on the back of my truck, I'm probably going to keep a couple back there, and they're going to hold up to that kind of use and abuse much better than anything else. And if you're in a situation where you need to collect water from like a nearby stream or creek, then that'll be something that you can use without having to worry about it becoming damaged and leaking on the way back. When it comes to compact survival blankets, the heavy-duty Mylar blanket by Survive Outdoors Longer, it is a very good choice. I've shown a couple of different like Mylar blankets on the channel before, but this one, it's incredibly thick, so it's going to hold up a lot better than maybe some of the other ones. And it is a little bit bigger, so it does take up more space in your pack. But it's going to be strong enough that you can actually use it as a shelter if you need to without it tearing up. You can use it as a ground cloth. Of course, the regular use of using it to kind of reflect that body heat back to you. And since it is made of Mylar, it can be used for signaling as well. Spirit burners are another really solid piece of survival gear, and I know most of them, like the one I have, they're made out of brass, but you can find them made out of other materials like titanium. But since they're so compact and don't really have any moving parts, they can last pretty much your entire lifetime. And another good thing about them is that you can use a variety of fuels. You can use denatured alcohol, you can use different kinds of isopropyl alcohol, you can use yellow heat, which is an alcohol-based like fuel additive, and you can also use other things like Everclear or other kinds of alcohol. So considering how durable they are and the fact that you have so many options with fuel, I think they're an excellent thing for everybody to have. Another thing that I rarely see break down are propane camp stoves. Now I know propane, it's a finite fuel source, it'll only last so long during a long-term disaster, and there's probably a few of you that have had a propane stove break down. But for the most part, you can go pick one up at a flea market and it's gonna work perfectly fine. So I think they're good to have just for kind of small emergencies where you just need something easy that you can cook with. And propane as a fuel source is a very good option because it doesn't go bad like other things like gasoline. You don't really have to rotate it. As long as the tank itself is in good condition, then the propane inside is going to be perfectly fine. Another piece of survival gear that is a lot better than similar options is the pocket chainsaw. This is kind of an improved version of those little wire saws that you find in like cheapy survival kits or maybe the sporting goods section at Walmart. And like the name suggests, it's an actual length of chainsaw chain with durable handles attached to each end. And it's going to be good for handling pieces of wood that are maybe a little bit too thick for a small folding saw, and it might also be a little bit less tiring to use than a hatchet, so they're good additions to things like bug-out bags or car kits. Stainless steel bottle cook sets are another nearly indestructible piece of survival gear, and these are good because in addition to being able to transport water, you can also boil water directly in those water bottles because they're just a stainless steel single wall vessel. And really the only weak part is going to be the lid because they're plastic, like this one by Pathfinder. But if you can get like the full kit that comes with the little cup and then the little cook stove, I think that's a good idea because you can use the cup for measuring out, like if you're cooking backpacking meals like Mountain House or any of the other guys. And the stove, you can use it with things like solid fuel tablets, you can use it with an alcohol stove, or even something as simple as just twigs so that you can have a fire to boil water or cook as you need to. If you're looking for an indestructible multi-tool, then Swiss tools are a good option. I have the Swiss Tool X, which is the one with scissors. There's some other larger Swiss tools with different tool sets, and they have the Spirit lineup, which has the nice ergonomic curved handles. But where Swiss tools shine compared to other multi-tools is, first of all, their build is incredibly beefy. It's going to be hard to break one of those just under normal use. Now, of course, with anything, if you try hard enough, you could probably break it. But another really good thing is that the materials that they're made out of are incredibly corrosion resistant. It's going to take a lot more abuse and neglect to get that thing to rust than it would something like a Leatherman, and I have used both. And speaking of indestructible tools, it is very hard to beat old manual style hand tools. So if you're looking for tools that will probably outlive you, so any of the old made in USA or even a lot of European stuff, it's a very, very good option. Like a lot of my wrenches, they actually belong to my grandfathers, and I mean, if they didn't tear them up, I seriously doubt that I am. Then I have other tools like manual hand drills, braces, and bits that are antiques, and they work much better than probably anything that's produced today. I don't know how well y'all can see it, but this bench vise over here, I mean, it's probably at least 80 to 100 years old, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. And y'all have seen on my channel, I like power tools and things like that, but having good quality manual tools is very good for preppers just because you don't know if there's going to be a very long-term situation, and having really solid manual tools that don't require any electricity, it's a very good idea. Now, if you are interested in power tools and you want to learn more about those and kinds that preppers could use, go ahead and click up here. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.